Hello, my name is Frank Forsthoefel, and currently I am the Assistant Superintendent for Sycamore Schools. But beginning in July 1, I'm going to be the Superintendent of Sycamore Schools. Honored to serve this great district. So I think the intent of this interview would for you to get to know a little bit more about me, what my goals are, what my aspirations are for the districts and the great kids in Sycamore. First question that I've been asked to answer is, you started as a science teacher and will next year become superintendent of Sycamore. Could you talk about your journey to get here? Absolutely. I started as an elementary teacher in Lakota local schools. I taught 4th grade and 6th grade. I did that for about 7 years. Thinking about what was next for me professionally, I wanted to really consider my ability to influence more people. So I went back to school, went to Xavier, and got an administrative degree. And then I was lucky enough to be appointed as an assistant principal at Summit Elementary in the Forest Hills School District. And for those of you that may not know where Forest Hills is, it's out in Anderson Township, where I still live. Following 3 years as an assistant principal there, I was fortunate enough to be appointed as principal at Wilson Elementary, another elementary in that great district, and was principal there for 8 years, and what a great job that was to work with those kids and that school community. Once again, thinking about influence and how I could potentially have a positive influence on greater people, I thought about a central office position, and the position here in Sycamore opened up as assistant superintendent, and that was 9 years ago, back in 2006. And I applied and was fortunate enough to be appointed, and at that time that job was primarily over academic affairs, which allowed me to work on the academic program of the district, student achievement, work closely with the principals. Just a great opportunity for me to grow as a leader. Following that, about 3 years ago, back in 2012, we reorganized a little bit in central office, and I inherited, not only in addition to my academic work, was all of the oversight over human resources, which is all the personnel in the district, which is 800 plus employees. So from a professional growth, it was really cool because I got to influence both the teaching and learning and the people that actually implemented that, the staff here at Sycamore. So I've done that for the past 3 years. Great opportunity for me. When our great superintendent, Dr. James, announced her retirement, the Board of Education engaged me in some conversation about potentially being her successor, and was fortunate enough to be appointed as superintendent beginning July 1. Kind of a little bit of my journey here. Been a more traditional path from teacher to building administrator to central office, and certainly, and I'm very blessed to be superintendent here in Sycamore. So that's the first question. Second question, tell us about your family, your hobbies, anything we should know about you. Well, one of the first things that I do, my most important job, is to be the best husband and father that I can be. So I am the husband of 25 years to my great wife, Robin, whom I met at Miami University when we were undergrads. And we have 2 fantastic daughters. One is Megan, who's a senior at Anderson High School, so she's graduating and will soon begin college. And our youngest daughter is Madison, who is 15 and a freshman at Anderson High School, but next year will be an aviator since we're moving out here, and we're excited about welcoming her into Sycamore High School. Hobbies, I love the outdoors. I love to fish. I'm a huge sports fan. I'm an avid Xavier basketball fan. I've been a season ticket holder for years. You can imagine right now I'm pretty geeked up about the Musketeers playing in the NCAA tournament. Love to spend time with my family. My daughters are both competitive swimmers, and I enjoy watching them compete at a high level of swimming, and really look forward to seeing Madison compete next year as an aviator. Anything else to know about me? I think I have 3 sisters and a brother, all older than me, and I came from a very small town north of Dayton named Coldwater, Ohio, which ironically is the same hometown as the great principal at Sycamore High School, Mr. Mader. So we are from the same hometown, and we knew each other when we were younger. So that's question 2. Question 3, do you have any role models in your life that you've modeled yourself after professionally? Well, I've had many. I've had many people that have really influenced me in a positive manner and have made me a better leader. But if I had to select one, I would think it would be my brother John. My brother John is 18 years older than I am. was an educator all his life, was a building principal and a central office assistant superintendent, is now retired, is actually a college professor. But he had an incredible influence on me in terms of how to relate to people. And he's also a good person that I can get some advice from. So he's probably the one. Fourth question, in terms of district as a whole, what are your goals, short-term and long-term? Well, I think in terms of short-term goals, certainly I want to be able to transition into the role of superintendent as best I can. I think I have an advantage in that I understand the district and I understand the people and I understand the great communities that support our district. So I'm anxious in the short term to begin that process. Also in the short term, I'm anxious to put the rest of our administrative team together. We have made some changes in central office simply because I will be leaving my position, and that would include Mrs. Karen Neighbor as our new assistant superintendent and Mr. Brian Wallace as our new director of human resources. So we've got some other big hires to do. We now need a junior high principal, so we're going to look for that. We've just recently hired a new athletic director for our aviators. Mr. Poggi's going to do a fantastic job. So I think in the short term it's about getting the right people in the right places to serve the kids as best we can. Long term, a couple of big goals that I have. I want to make sure that we have everything in place to make sure all of our kids, that when they graduate Sycamore High School, have some idea about what they want to do. We want to do everything we can to get them either college ready or career ready. And we've got some great things happening around that. Case in point here at the high school, the learning communities that are being planned and scheduled for implementation next year under Mr. Mader's leadership are just one part of that. Another thing I'd like to think about long term is give some consideration to the offerings we offer our most youngest kids. That's our preschool and our kindergarten kids. Research tells us that the earlier we can intervene with students, even at 3 years old, the better chance they have for academic success. We've got good offerings now, but I think in the long term, if we can engage ourselves in an exhaustive study to see if there's potential expansion for that. I know it's a resource question, and that'll be a tough part of the conversation. So that's one of the things I'd like for us to consider. Let me go to question 5. Specifically regarding the high school, what kinds of changes should we expect to see under your leadership? Well, I think you're seeing some of them already, and I don't know how much credit I can take for that. We have seen just a phenomenal excitement and energy at Sycamore High School, pride in our high school. We've done some structural changes here at the high school. We've got more coming with changes to the entryway, changes to the media center, which will just blow people away in a great way. I'm anxious to see how the learning communities take shape, and I'm also anxious to see what comes next with those. What other ones might we have? And then certainly, as always, everything we do is about the people that we have, and so I'm anxious to see the new people that we bring on board at Sycamore High. So including, we're out looking for a new assistant principal at Sycamore High, so that's a big one as well. Let me see, number 6, what do you think has been your greatest achievement in the district thus far? Well, I think as I mentioned before, Sycamore's about the people, and I think if I could say one thing that I'm most proud of is the people we've hired in the district. And that is from the great administrators to the fantastic teachers, to those bus drivers every day that focus on getting kids to and from school in a safe manner, to the child nutrition workers that put good meals in front of our kids so they can have a nutritious, and even the maintenance and custodial folks that make our buildings look the way that they do for our learning environments. So it's about the people, and I think we've done a really good job of hiring great people in Sycamore. Number 7, what do you think will be some of the greatest challenges facing the district in the coming years? Well, I think there's a couple. We always want to be fiscally responsible to our taxpayers' resources, and we have incredibly supportive community members, and they've blessed us with great resources. I want to make sure that we continue to tell the story to our communities that we're taking care of their resources and utilizing them in a productive manner for the benefit of our kids. We'll never lose sight of that here in Sycamore. I think the other thing that will potentially continue to challenge us is the kinds of things that are being mandated upon us from the state level. We're continually kind of in a state of reacting to some things coming forward. I'm not saying all of those are bad, but some of those things causes us to take some energies away from the things that we want to do. We've all just gone through the park testing and everything that means. I think we've done a fantastic job in Sycamore in terms of adjusting to that. But in the scope of everything, how much testing is too much testing? So we want to continue to think about that and work with the people that are deciding those things to see if we can have some influence over that. Number 8, if you were advertising Sycamore to potential parents and students, what would you say are the district's greatest attributes? Well, you know, I'm advertising this great district to my own daughter right now, who's going to be a student here. And so what I'm telling my daughter Madison is this: you're going to have an incredible amount of opportunities. Now that's at the high school level. Any kind of course that you would want, you could take at Sycamore. The athletic opportunities, the extracurricular opportunities, the fantastic diversity of our student body, and the talent of our teachers. If I were talking to someone moving into the district, I would say we have the resources and the talent of our staff to meet your child specifically where they're at. If they have some learning challenges, we've got services for them. If they're a student that's typically in the middle, we have great offerings for them to meet them where they're at and push them to another level. If they're a student that is accelerated, we've got all those opportunities for them. So we're blessed here in Sycamore, and so I would advertise that for that particular student, because that's our client. Those are the things we want to market. Here's a great question. Athletic Director Jim Stoll's retiring after this year. What other transition at district office are taking place in the next year? It's a great question. I did mention it, but I'll review. As you know, Mr. Stoll served our district for 20 years and did a great job as Athletic Director. We recently appointed Mr. Phil Poggi as our new AD here at Sycamore. When I think about the kinds of things that were used to describe Mr. Poggi from the people that helped me make the decision to hire him, here's what I heard: energetic, visionary, child-centered, relationship-driven, big ideas. So we can't wait to get Mr. Poggi on board and have him take the Aviators to another level. Other changes, I mentioned them. Mrs. Neighbor is now going to be the new assistant superintendent for the district. She's going to be great. She currently is in the director of academic affairs, but we're going to broaden her influence a little bit. She'll be a great person to serve the district, and will continue to do so. Mr. Wallace will serve as our new director of human resources. Talk about relationship oriented. He really gets how to develop relationships, and he knows good talent, which the Director of Human Resources is responsible to do. So, as a part of their transition, we are doing an exhaustive search for a great junior high principal. So we're looking at that right now, and I know the high school staff is working hard to replace Miss Avia, who's retiring this year as assistant principal. So those are the big things we're working on. We also have one other. We've appointed Mrs. Stacy Spencer as new Director of Student Services. She has, and she's replacing Dr. Angela, who's retiring, done great for the district. That office is responsible for providing services and coordinating services for students with special needs, students on IEPs, students on 504s. Mrs. Spencer is going to be a great director. Came up to this position from a special education supervisor position. So she's right now in the search process to find the replacement for that position. So as you can see, a lot of changes here in Sycamore. Next question. One of the things you are known for is a knack for hiring people. Well, thank you for that. What are your secrets to finding and hiring great staff members? I think several things. One, you got to have a good process. We have a process where we screen every applicant. Typically that screening occurs on an online basis. We look at those results very carefully. Our buildings, specifically our principals, when they start to interview, people have great processes in place. Usually it involves more than just them. Could be a principal, assistant principal, team of teachers that really help with the hiring process. When they get to their final person, that person comes over and spends a little time with me as kind of their final checkpoint. and then I interview them. So we've got a pretty linear process that we use to screen our candidates. One of the great things about Sycamore is we have tons of candidates. People want to work in Sycamore because of the great things that we do. So we have the luxury of picking the best of the best. So what do I look for when I see a good candidate? Well, a couple things. One, can they develop relationships with people? And what I mean by people is, can they develop great relationships with kids? Can they develop great relationships with the people that they work with and the parents that they work with? That's a non-negotiable for me. Other than that, I talk with the candidates at the final level about, instructional practices. Can they provide differentiated instruction for the different learners in their classroom? That's a given. Can they collaborate with their teaching team? That's important. We no longer are doing things, teachers in a room by themselves. We're collaborating now, so it's important that teachers be able to do that. How do they do with implementing or using technology as an instructional tool? That's an important component. The changing face of technology changes every day, every minute, and we need teachers that can at least engage us in a process where they can keep up with that. So there's just a couple of things. There's many other things that I ask them, but those are the non-negotiables for me. Okay. Is there anything else you would like to say to the Sycamore community? I think there's a couple of things. One, I'm humbled and honored to be your superintendent coming July 1. Two, I am so anxious to get to engage with people that I haven't met, people that I'm looking forward to meet. I think another thing is I'd like people to know that relationships are important to me, and I'm anxious to develop even more relationships than I already have. And we've got great things ahead of us in Sycamore, and it's my hope, with the help of a lot of great people, that we can take Sycamore to even greater heights. So I've answered the questions, hopefully, and I look forward to seeing and hearing from a lot of people, and I appreciate your time today.